Right now, 5:30, what is typically considered a fun and educational pastime causing controversy now. It's now in a lawsuit. So the ACLU of North Carolina is suing the Cleveland County Board of Education, claiming that it violated students' First Amendment rights. So it all surrounds the Shelby High School club quiz game, and the lawsuit claims that school leaders banned it because it focused on, quote, indecent LGBTQ plus subject matter. According to the suit, though, the students proposed a Jeopardy-style game discussing individuals who made history as members of the LGBTQ community. So it was approved by a club advisor, but then shut down by the County Board of Education. So let's bring in Chief Legal Analyst Rhodes to talk about all this. First, kind of just walk us through this lawsuit, because I'm a little confused as to if there was some sensitivity issues.
Well, that's what they're alleging. Is in the school board. First, it started with the advisor, then it started with the principal, then it moved on to the superintendent. But this group is not a curriculum. This isn't part of the class. These are like flexible times, and so I'm trying to make paint the picture of where we're at in the school session. This isn't like replacing a math or a reading class. Right. This is their free time where they have these groups, these activities, and they can sit and they can meet and they can do anything. And so this group talks about a number of topics, some Black history stuff, some women's history things. And so for this topic, they wanted to talk about the LGBTQ community, and they wanted to talk about folks like Harvey Milk, San Francisco mayor that was killed, Ellen DeGeneres, Pete Buttigieg. Those are folks that they wanted to talk about, and it wasn't any pictures, it wasn't any photographs, it was only text. So it was a Jeopardy-style game that talked about text, that talked about these historic folks within that community. They believed that the school districts all thought that it was sensitive, that this was something that violated the parents' Bill of Rights, something that they would have needed permission from the parents, that they requested more time to review. So there was a lot of pushback. But I believe the ACLU laid out this argument pretty clear that this doesn't go against anything that's in your policy, because it can't be lewd, because as I mentioned before, there's no photographs. So lewd would mean that they're showing something insensitive, something obscene, and that's not what happened in this case. They also talk about something called the equal access rule, which says if you're going to receive federal funds, you can't discriminate against someone based on their content. So that's the First Amendment argument. You can say, you know what, I don't want you to do it here, time, place, and manner. We talk about that a lot on the show. But if you're saying that I don't like what you're saying, I don't like the content of the words that you're attempting to talk about, and you receive federal funds, that's a violation, and that's what the ACLU was saying.
So is there a board policy that then would allow officials to be able to block student activities, and then how would that apply specifically looking at this case?
Well, they talk about it in the complaint. They say there is no policy that there is a policy that allows them to say certain things in the curriculum could be used. There is a policy that says certain things in the school could be used. But I think ACLU points here to this case clearly. When they talk about the First Amendment, they say students do not shed their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gates. Basically saying just because you walk in the door, you don't lose your constitutional rights, which would supersede any type of school policy. Now, the courts have held a number of times in the past that when you walk into a school, the school has a right to limit those things. But even in that limiting, they still have to make sure that it's content neutral, that they're not picking on you and saying, because you're talking about Black folks, we're going to say you can't do that. Because you're talking about LGBT community, you can't do that. Once you start narrowing down the topic and saying specific content can be limited, that's when it's problematic, and that's what they're alleging happened.
And it just really seems like there's a gray area there. Do you think quickly that they have a case?
I think there is a case here. I think the ACLU only picks cases where they'll be able to get it challenged, so that a challenge can go before the Supreme Court. So you have opportunities to make changes to laws. You have opportunity to not just make statements, to make meaningful changes to policies where you foresee a violation. So they're not cherry picking cases where they don't think they can win. Not saying they win every time, but they're picking cases that have good facts and good timing, and this is, I think, one of those.
Gotcha. Rhodes, appreciate your insight as always.